There comes a time when the world becomes too quiet. You kneel down, close your eyes, and speak to God. But all you hear is the sound of your own heartbeat, as if even the heavens had fallen silent. You ask for an answer. You ask for a sign, a direction, anything. But the wind doesn't blow, the pages don't turn, and the silence becomes a wall between you and the divine. Your mind starts to scream. Has he forgotten me? Did what I do push him away? Is he still with me? And that's where many get lost, because they mistake God's silence for rejection, when, in truth, silence is God's deepest way of speaking. God does not speak only with words. Sometimes he speaks with the void, with the time that lingers, with the silence that cuts. He speaks when everything seems still, because it's in that moment that the noise of the soul is revealed. Imagine a field after a storm. The ground is wet, the air heavy, the sky still gray. But if you remain silent, you'll hear a small, almost invisible sound, the earth breathing, seeds awakening. The silence that seemed like the end was only the beginning of life sprouting anew. This is how God works. While you think nothing is happening, he is digging roots in places your eyes cannot see, working in the deepest layers of your heart, shaping what needs to be shaped. God works in the dark, in the womb of doubt, in the space between prayer and answer. It's easy to trust when everything flourishes, but it's in the desert that faith proves itself real. When the sky seems mute and the soul cries alone, that's where God teaches you to recognize his voice not by sound, but by presence. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and leave a comment. Think of a father teaching his child to walk. At first, he holds the hands. Then, he takes a step back. The child cries, stretches out the arms, feels the emptiness, but the father hasn't left. He is just a few steps away, watching, cheering, believing. Silence is just the space between love and learning. And God does the same. He steps back a little, not to leave you alone, but to teach you to walk by faith, not by sight. To show that his presence does not depend on feeling, but on believing. Silence is God's workshop. It is the studio where he records the purest sounds of the soul. It is the space between pain and revelation, where the human being stops merely believing and begins to truly know. So, when it seems like heaven doesn't hear you, do not give up on prayer. Pray louder within yourself. Let your heart speak what words cannot. Because God understands sighs, he understands tears, and he answers, always answers. Sometimes with a miracle, other times with a silence that heals. But the answer comes, because God's silence has never been absence. It has always been love, disguised as waiting. And when he finally breaks that silence, you will understand. You will look back and realize that, while you thought you were alone, God was carrying you, working in every detail, writing the story you thought was lost. In the end, you will discover that he never stopped speaking. It was you who needed to learn to listen. Because God's silence is the deepest sound there is. After the silence comes the whisper. It's not always a sound. Sometimes it's a feeling, a memory, a presence that cannot be explained. God rarely shouts. He prefers to speak softly, because those who learn to hear the whisper learn to hear his heart. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Have you noticed how God hides in the details? How he reveals himself so subtly that many pass by without noticing? Sometimes it's a line from a song that plays at just the right moment. A message that arrives when you least expect it. A sunset that seems to say, I am still here. But the problem is that most people are in too much of a hurry to notice. They want the visible miracle, the sign in the sky, the immediate answer. They forget that God also speaks through the small coincidences that aren't really coincidences. One day, you wake up different, without knowing why. The pain is still there, but your soul seems to breathe. You feel a strange calm, a peace that doesn't match what you're living. And in that moment, God touches you, not to change the circumstances, but to remind you that He is still in control. He speaks through life, through a look that understands you, through a word that comforts you, through a hug that comes at just the right time. Simple gestures, yet filled with eternity. God doesn't appear with lightning. He appears with gentleness, with grace, with love disguised as chance. Remember Elijah, the prophet? He expected to hear God in the strong wind, in the earthquake, in the fire. But God came in a gentle whisper, a small, almost imperceptible sound that made the prophet fall to his knees. It's the same with you. You want to see the heavens open, but God prefers to touch your heart without anyone noticing. He slips into the gaps, into the moments, into the silences between words. He is in the sigh before the tear falls, in the laughter that escapes in the midst of pain, in the courage that arises from nowhere when everything seems lost. You don't need to see God to know He is there. You just need to pay attention, because the signs are everywhere, in the life that persists, in the time that heals, in the hope that slowly returns. God's presence doesn't announce itself with noise. It manifests like the wind. You don't see it, but you feel it as it passes. He touches, moves, renews. And the more you learn to observe, the more you realize that nothing is by chance. Every encounter, every delay, every detour, all has a hidden purpose. God works on the fine line that separates the ordinary from the sacred. And it is there, between the now and the eternal, that He leaves His marks. So, pause for a moment. Breathe. Look around. Perhaps the sign you've been asking for is already happening right before your eyes. But to see God, you need to slow down. You need to feel. Because He is in the simple things, in the things the world ignores, but that make the heart recognize the Creator. God is not distant. He is hidden in every detail, waiting for you to notice. You ask for a miracle. You expect something grand, a clear answer, a voice from above, proof that God is still with you. But He rarely speaks that way. The divine shows up in the details, and that's exactly why so many people fail to notice when He is working. You call it coincidence, when, in truth, it's intervention. That message that arrived at just the right moment. The opportunity that seemed lost, but reappeared out of nowhere. The accident that almost happened, but didn't. All of it has a purpose. But hurry and fear keep you from seeing it. While you complain about the delay, God is repositioning people, moving paths, dismantling plans that would have taken you to the wrong place. He doesn't work on your timetable, He works on the right timetable. And the right time is almost never what you want. But He gives signs. He always gives signs. You feel it when something isn't right, when your heart feels heavy, when something calls you back. That's His whisper, not chance. True faith begins when you stop demanding answers and start noticing presence. Because God doesn't need to appear to prove He exists. He reveals Himself in the things that keep you going, even when you don't understand. And if you look closely, you'll realize that deliverance you called luck, that door that closed when you wanted it open most, that painful no, were just ways He was telling you, trust. I have always been guiding the way, even when you thought you were alone. There are days when you feel empty. You walk around the house and everything seems too ordinary. You pray, but it feels like you're talking to the walls. You look for signs from God, a shiver, a coincidence, a quick answer, and nothing happens. It's on these days that the heart doubts, is He still here? What do you think about our reflection? Your opinion means a lot, but God isn't measured by feelings. He doesn't need to make Himself obvious to remain present. He's in the small things you've stopped noticing, in the breath that wakes you every morning, in the calm that comes out of nowhere when the world seems to collapse, in that good memory that surfaces from the past just to remind you that beauty still exists. He is in the invisible, sustaining what seems too simple to be divine. The problem is that we expect God in grand scenes, the miracle, the thunder, the instant healing. But He loves to hide in the details. He doesn't shout, He whispers. And to hear a whisper, you have to stop, quiet your fear, take a deep breath, and realize that He has never left. Remember the disciples on the road to Emmaus? Jesus was walking with them, but they didn't notice. They talked about Him, lamented His absence, unaware that He was there, in the middle of the conversation, in the dust of the road, in the breaking of the bread. It's the same with you. God continues walking beside you, even when your heart doesn't recognize Him. He is in the pauses, in gray days, in waits that seem pointless. He is the air between words, the rest between pains, the hug that arrives without warning. His presence doesn't depend on your perception, even if you don't feel it. He continues sustaining everything, including you. And maybe one day, when you look back, you'll realize, on the days you thought you were alone, He was carrying you. In the moments you thought your faith had died, He was just teaching you to see with the eyes of your soul. God never left. It was you who learned, slowly, to see Him in a new way. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe too. We post videos every week, and your opinion means a lot to us.